Anyway, Wally said, Mayor Cabot. Those were the words, and I'm liking the sound of it, you know? You'd be just like your granddad, finest mayor we've ever had, I swear to it. It'd be great to have things come full circle like that, nice and neat. I like things that way. Think about it, Nico. It'd make your old man proud. Nick laughed and looked at the other man, obviously the quieter of the two. Hey, Sly, has this guy been drinking at this hour of the day? You need to take better care of him. None of that, Nicky. He's dry as a bone. Nick laughed. Just kidding you, Sly. But he's now all yours. You take this guy and his mouth out of my backyard, will you? He's going to wake the dead. You got it, Nicky boy. Matter of fact, we were just about to mosey along. He bent his arm and poked an elbow into Wally's side, nearly knocking him off balance. This fool talks too much. They both laughed and gave a wave. Nick waved back, watching the two men move on. He loved these old guys, and if he could bet on it, he'd bet they wouldn't go far. He watched. A few more yards took them to the step onto Nick's wide dock. They took the step, then ambled to the very end of the long dock, side by side. He kept watching them, as good a way as any to start the day. He knew exactly how it would play out. First, they'd put their poles down on the deck floor. Next, they'd arrange a couple of coolers side by side beside their rods, the smaller cooler filled with bait, and the other chilling an ample supply of Sam Adams with maybe a couple of sardine sandwiches squeezed in between the cans. Finally, they'd pull out two of Nick's short-legged folding chairs from a wooden chest, and they'd arrange their bodies in them, rocking side by side until they were comfortable. Then Nick would hear them sigh, maybe pull out a smoke or sometimes not, and finally they'd get serious, throwing out their lines and hoping they'd catch a few. Maybe go home at the end of the day with a catch of striped bass or gray trout. Enough for a decent dinner. Often, when Nick and his dog came back from a morning run, they'd go over and talk to the old guys, listening to their exaggerated fish tales that seemed to gain weight and substance with each telling. Some of the stories included Nick's own father and grandfather, which maybe explained why they felt privy to Nick's property. His dad would have been down there with them. That was Nick's memory, a fisherman to the core. A bark at the large glass door told him his dog had seen the fisherman. The goofy dog loved the old guys as much as he did. He went over and opened the glass door, letting the dog out. But you can't go down there, buddy. Your charming dog walkers will be here soon. Those old guys can't hold a candle to Daisy and Gabby. As if he'd understood every word, Squid thumped his tail on the deck, then jumped up on a chaise lounge and settled down. Nick carried his coffee mug over and sat on the chaise next to his dog, not sure which one of them was in charge. His bare legs were hot from the sun, but cooled by the breeze. Nick watched the tide coming in, the shore disappearing as mesmerizing as watching a fire. His morning meditation. He picked up his phone and checked the calendar. Today, he'd head to the office in Ipswich and catch up on things. Then touch base with his friend, Gracie Santos, to help her with a couple tricky work issues that she was having at her lazy lobster and soup cafe. Hiring the wrong people can mess up a kitchen. It might be an easy fix. A quick dinner at the Sea Harbor Yacht Club to see his longtime friend Liz and her husband Alfonso, and a trip to the Y to sweat out the idea of running for mayor. He was surprised it was already riding the gossip train. When approached by a few guys on the council asking if he'd ever thought about running for mayor, he'd been honest. No, never, he'd said. But once the thought was in there, it had stayed. The thought of having to convince people you were better, smarter, more qualified than someone else appealed to him about as much as eating octopus, about which he'd read many books and now abstained. But in one ear, he could hear his pop saying, "Old Wally is wiser than he looks, Nicky. I'd be damn proud of you, son." Nicholas Cabot Sr. had forgiven his son on many fronts for not following the family tradition of going into fishing. At least, not exactly. Instead, he'd started a fishing supply company that was now all over the